In the top stories, Prime Minister Harris welcomes economic diversification in the Federation. Police in St. Lucia record huge drug bust in business container, and U.S. President Joe Biden addresses Congress for the first time. Hello and welcome to the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Today is Thursday, the 29th of April, 2021. I'm Jason Davis. Nationally, Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris says his government continues to explore alternative means of diversifying the economy of St. Kitts and Nevis, noting that it's imperative based on the challenges experienced over the past year as a result of the economic impact posed by the COVID-19 pandemic. Prime Minister Harris, who was at the time speaking on the weekly Leadership Matters program on Tuesday, said while it is difficult in a small island state to follow multiple economic pathways, tourism is the mainstay of the economy. Looking at the broad field of tourism, the Prime Minister said there are opportunities within this sector that allow for diversification.
Tourism has become a big thing for St. Kitts and Nevis. In Grenada, it is estimated that education tourism, the offshore university, contributes surprisingly 25% of the economy. That is huge and that is significant. And so here we have Ross University as the main provider of offshore education of high quality within the Federation. That is a significant part of the efforts at developing the offshore education sector in St. Kitts and Nevis. We have to ensure accreditation standards are well placed, well developed, and are effective in implementation so that we can attract other institutions of higher learning.
According to Prime Minister Harris, the agriculture sector, for which the government has injected significant amounts of stimulus support, is still one that holds great potential for the overall future growth and sustainability of the nation's economy.
Part of it really is for crops and livestock and fisheries to contribute more to food security, reduce significantly our imports of fresh produce into the country by having that done locally, creating employment, creating incomes for persons resident here. That to me is going to be critical.
The Prime Minister said the medicinal cannabis industry, which the government is currently exploring, is another example of a sector that holds economic potential for the Federation. On the heels of a newly formed partnership with the Old Road United Jets Football Club, Montrevel Farms and CleanRight announced the installation of a free Wi-Fi hotspot along Main Street in Old Road between Hermitage and Wingfield Roads. According to a statement, Samuel Duggins, the owner of Montrevel Farms, said the move advances social connectivity measures, especially for the community to view matches played online, as COVID protocols continue to keep limits on spectator presence. He said, quote, "During this extraordinary time, we recognize the importance of keeping the fans and the entire community connected, particularly since they cannot attend games. Therefore, the best way to continue to boost support was to provide an avenue which would allow businesses and fans to stream the games live," end quote. Quasim Walker, owner of CleanRight, added that both companies want to give back in some way. He said, quote, "At a time like this, it is our belief that we ought to step up and give back to a community that has given us so much, whether it's for business, school, or personal use. Internet access is vital," end quote. The football club, through partnership with the businesses, received new club uniforms, which were revealed on the 22nd of April at a ceremony at the Spratnet Bar and Restaurant in Old Road. Tavia Phillip is one of two female football players in St. Kitts and Nevis that received financial assistance from the SKNFA as she embarks on her professional football journey in Iceland. More from Andre Huey, media consultant to the SKNFA.
Financial assistance to two female footballers who will be pursuing professional football in Iceland. Tavia Phillip and Brittany Lawrence both received opportunities to play professional club football in Iceland in lieu of their performance for the St. Kitts Nevis women's team in the CONCACAF Olympic Women's Qualifiers late 2019 into early 2020. Tavia Phillip received her donation of $2,700 from the SKNFA Tuesday afternoon at Football House in the presence of her family, President of the SKNFA Mr. Anthony Johnson, General Secretary of the SKNFA Stanley Jacobs, and other SKNFA officials. During the short presentation ceremony, Mr. Jacobs lauded Tavia's work ethic and her sterling performance during the Olympic qualifiers, which earned her the opportunity.
St. Kitts and Nevis senior women's team advanced to the final round of the CONCACAF qualifiers last 2019 and early into January and February 2020. That team did exceptionally well, and Tavia, an excellent defender from the St. Kitts and Nevis team, and also Ms. Brittany Lawrence, also a member of the St. Kitts and Nevis team, will be, as a result of the excellent play, and of course as a result of the hard work of our national player, Ms. Phoenicia Brown, were able to secure professional contracts for the two players, Ms. Tavia Phillip and Ms. Brittany Lawrence. And so we're extremely excited, like I said, for us in St. Kitts and Nevis.
Mr. Johnson also praised Tavia on her accomplishments and said this opportunity proves that the SKNFA's women's program is bearing fruit.
In the very short time that we have had women's football here in St. Kitts and Nevis, we have managed to achieve, I believe, great success, especially compared to some of our Caribbean and CONCACAF neighbors, most of whom are very larger than us and who have a significantly greater population to choose from in the women's sport. But as was said earlier by the General Secretary, we have achieved great strides, and I believe the achievement of Tavia today is one that will act as an inspiration, as a motivation to other female athletes and female footballers in particular to achieve the same success and more. And so I want to thank all of the persons who have been contributing to making this day a possibility.
Meanwhile, the woman of the moment expressed gratitude to the SKNFA for their financial assistance and about the opportunity she has to pursue a professional football career.
It was a dream for me. Actually, when I was small, I wanted to play professional football, and now the opportunity comes. I'm very thankful for the opportunity.
Mr. Jacobs noted that Brittany Lawrence, who is based in Canada, would also receive the same assistance from the SKNFA. Tavia was expected to depart the Federation Wednesday en route to Iceland.
Regionally, in St. Lucia, a police operation has resulted in the seizure of a large quantity of illegal drugs in a container belonging to a well-known business enterprise. More in this report.
Expected to find in a consignment of goods to a reputable firm with a long history of trading in St. Lucia. But this is the season of surprises. Stashed away in a shipping container was a huge quantity of illicit drugs believed to be cannabis. Police, with the assistance of partner agencies like the Customs and Excise Department, made the discovery on Tuesday. Police issued a press release on the matter Wednesday afternoon, which reads in part, quote, "Units of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force conducted an operation, during which time a search of a sealed goods container was initiated. The container was housed within the enclosed premises of a business in the north of the island," unquote. So, what's the value of what's believed to be one of the largest hauls of marijuana in the history of St. Lucia? Well, one would have to wait as the massive packages are being processed, that is, weighed and then valued. The storage of the huge stash of marijuana may prove to be a challenge for the force. The drug haul on Tuesday led to the Royal St. Lucia Police Force launching an investigation to get to those behind the importation of the illicit drugs. These are early days for the investigation, and so far no one has been arrested, and the name of the company at the center of it all remains under official seal for now. Stanley Lucian for the HTS News Force.
The second shipment of vaccines under the World Health Organization's COVAX facility is set to arrive in the Americas in coming weeks. That assurance has come from Director of the Pan American Health Organization, Dr. Carissa Etienne. It's a matter being watched closely in Antigua and Barbuda, which is set to receive over 16,000 more doses from the facility. ABS's Shanakisa Francis has more from PAHO's media briefing.
PAHO Media Briefing, Dr. Etienne applauds the efforts of the region's leaders in the ongoing battle against COVID-19.
Based on how infections are surging, this is exactly what needs to happen. We know that these measures work, and I commend leaders across our region for putting health first.
She says more than 317 million vaccine doses have been administered throughout the region as of this week. With the number of people getting vaccinated rising, the second shipment of the vaccine is expected to arrive in upcoming weeks.
In the next few weeks, countries should receive their second COVAX shipments. And while doses remain limited, most countries should see a considerable increase in doses from the first wave. Nearly 7 million COVID vaccines will be arriving in these countries between May and June.
She says, thanks to the efforts of the region's health officials, this region has administered nearly every dose that it has so far received under the COVAX facility. She urges other countries with extra doses to consider donating a significant portion to the Americas. Shanakisha Francis reporting for ABS News.
Internationally, in Joe Biden's first address to U.S. Congress on the eve of his 100th day in office, the president said that America was once again, quote-unquote, moving forward after the ravages of the coronavirus pandemic. Biden spoke about his administration's early successes, ranging from the vaccination scheme to creating 1.3 million new jobs and a $1.9 trillion economic rescue plan. Al Jazeera's Roslyn Jordan reports.
For position, hoping to shake his hand as he makes his way to the podium. This year, COVID forced everyone to fist bump or use elbows or sit 2 meters apart. It's also given Joe Biden the most important challenge of his presidency and a significant moment in his first address.
100 days ago, America's house was on fire. We had to act. After I promised we'd get 100 million COVID-19 vaccine shots into people's arms in 100 days, we will have provided over 220 million COVID shots in those 100 days.
Biden spent his first 99 days in office trying to break a pandemic that has killed nearly 575,000 Americans. While there's more work to do, only 30% of Americans are fully vaccinated. Biden called on Congress to help him tackle other critical issues. Spend $2.7 trillion on infrastructure and job creation. Spend another $1.8 trillion on child care, education, and health care. And improve the standard of living for hundreds of millions of people, not just the very wealthiest, who also would pay more taxes to cover these projects.
These are good-paying jobs that can't be outsourced. Nearly 90% of the infrastructure jobs created in the American Jobs Plan do not require a college degree. 75% don't require an associate's degree. The American Jobs Plan is a blue-collar blueprint to build America. That's what it is. But Wall Street didn't build this country. The middle class built the country, and unions built the middle class.
Biden also called on Congress to tackle systemic racism, something highlighted by a police officer's murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis last year.
My fellow Americans, we have to come together to rebuild trust between law enforcement and the people they serve, to root out systemic racism in our criminal justice system. We need to work together to find a consensus. But let's get it done next month, by the first anniversary of George Floyd's death.
In the traditional opposition party response, Republican Senator Tim Scott called Biden's claims of success delusional.
But President Biden promised you a specific kind of leadership. He promised to unite a nation, to lower the temperature, to govern for all Americans, no matter how we voted. This was the pitch. You just heard it again. But our nation is starving for more than empty platitudes. We need policies and progress that brings us closer together. But 3 months in, the actions of the president and his party are pulling us further and further apart.
Biden brought up other major goals: overhaul immigration policy, reversing global warming. But he said his first job as president is making sure the pandemic fades into history, not just for the U.S., but for the world. Rosalind.
And now for the weather. Current conditions are cloudy skies with a moderate breeze of 15 miles per hour from the east. The temperature is 28 degrees Celsius or 82 degrees Fahrenheit. Seas are moderate with waves of 3 to 5 feet, and the weather forecast for St. Kitts and Nevis says today to expect partly cloudy to occasionally cloudy skies with a 50% or moderate chance of showers and a moderate chance of thunderstorms. And for tonight, partly cloudy skies with a 20% or slight chance of showers. Sunset today will be at 6:30 p.m., sunrise tomorrow at 5:45 a.m. And that brings us to the end of the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Join us this evening for these stories and more in detail. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Jason Davis.